All right, so it appears that Russia has invaded Ukraine, and it seems to be, it's obviously very terrible what's going on right now. It's pretty crazy to see what's happening. Something interesting I've noticed is that it seems like U.S. intelligence under Joe Biden has been pretty accurate. I'm saying that only based off of the recent reports combined with the reports I remember seeing the news. It was the reports going around of there's about to be like an imminent attack in Afghanistan on like the air base, and then it ended up happening like that day or the next day. So it seems to have been pretty accurate in general. But obviously this stuff has been going down. But this time it's not just the eastern Ukraine. This is a sort of operation that's going around the entirety of the country. So that's what really sets this apart and makes it different. Let's see here. Let's see. So as you can see on this this map right here, actually, let me bring up the other window. It's actually the wrong window here. Let's see. Here, this window. Is that another window open? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so this is the map you can see of the map of Russian attacks. Now, stuff is going on right now. I think it's morning time-ish over there. I don't know exactly what the time is, but stuff is still continuing to go down. But these are the Russian attacks, the reported Russian attacks, and so you can see there's a bunch, all the way in the west, and like Lviv and these areas in the left, Kyiv also getting hit. So this is not just the eastern Ukraine, like Donbass region, like Luhansk and Donetsk, situation. This is all over the country of Ukraine. There's bombings going on, like air raids over airports and some military targets, and it appears some civilian targets as well. So this is really, really scary on many, many different levels. Obviously, first of all, for Ukrainians, obviously, whose lives are now, in danger. I feel absolutely horrible for Ukrainians right now. But this definitely is a really, really big deal in terms of just global politics and the issues of, de-escalation and foreign policy and just all of that kind of stuff. But you can see, all these attacks going on. This one in, my eyesight is awful. Ivano-Frankivsk, like that was I think it was it an airport? I think it was that attack went down. You can see multiple attacks in Kyiv. So a lot of bombing raids, and I think my understanding is troops have been brought into the eastern region. The thing is, I don't know if the troops have expanded westward or not. But I don't know what to call this other than a war. Like, this is obviously a war. Anytime the U.S. is doing something like this, obviously it's a war. Time anybody does this, it's an act of war. You know what I mean? And so you can see this kind of thing going down. Eastern troops coming in from the east. Also, what's also really interesting is Belarus having a northern border with Ukraine. It's reported that Russia is actually sending in troops through Belarus. So they're coming in through the east and through the north. So troops are coming in from both sides. Now I would have to be really worried if I were bordering nations, I think that's Poland. That's just to the left of Ukraine, right? Obviously, Poland and Russia don't exactly have the nicest of history. You got, Romania down here. I don't know how they feel. But as soon as you, cross into Ukraine, let's say, you take over Ukraine, you have access to a bunch more borders. So Poland must really be shivering in their boots right now because of what's going down. But that is what has happened. There are air raid sirens. I can pull up some videos of that. Of some of the air raid sirens going off in these different cities in Ukraine. Hold on, let me see something real quick. It says Russian forces fired missiles at several cities in Ukraine, landed troops on its coast on Thursday, officials and media said, after President Vladimir Putin authorized what he called a special military operation in the east. Shortly after Putin spoke in a televised address on Russian state TV, explosions could be heard in the pre-dawn quiet of Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Gunfire rattled near the capital's main airport, the Interfax news agency said, and sirens were heard over the city. Putin has just launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Peaceful Ukrainian cities are under strikes, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said on Twitter. This is a war of aggression. Ukraine will defend itself and will win. The world can and must stop Putin. The time to act is now. U.S. President Joe Biden, reacting to an invasion the United States has been predicting for weeks, said his prayers with the people Ukraine as they suffer an unprovoked and unjustified attack, while promising tough sanctions in response. I will be meeting with the leaders of the G7. The United States and our allies and partners will be imposing severe sanctions on Russia, Biden said in a statement. Russia has demanded an end to NATO's eastward expansion, and Putin repeated his position. The Ukrainian membership of the U.S.-led Atlantic military alliance is unacceptable. This is another weird talking point because there was no real chance that Ukraine was going to be accepted into NATO. Those talks have been really dead for a while, so that's just another excuse obviously being used. He said he had authorized military action after Russia had been left with no choice but to defend itself against what he said were threats emanating from modern Ukraine, a democratic state of 44 million people. What threat to Russia was there from the nation of Ukraine? I'm genuinely curious. Russia cannot feel safe, develop, and exist with a constant threat emanating from the territory of modern Ukraine. All responsibility for bloodshed will be on the conscience of the ruling regime in Ukraine. So this is another thing he's trying to do, is he's trying to pin it on the ruling regime of Ukraine instead of outright going against or antagonizing directly the people of Ukraine. So this seems to be another strategy that he's doing. Says the full scope of the Russian military operation was not immediately clear, but Putin said, our plans do not include the occupation of Ukrainian territories. We are not going to impose anything by force. So, obviously, you can't believe a word that Putin is saying, obviously. But he's claiming that their plans are not to occupy the Ukrainian territories and that they're not going to impose anything by force. What exactly this means, I don't even know. So speaking as UN Security Council held an emergency meeting in NY, Putin said he had ordered Russian forces to protect people and appealed to the Ukrainian military to lay down their arms. So I guess he's trying to get, I don't know, I don't really understand. So you're trying to get, I guess you're trying to get Ukraine to give into your demands and trying to get Ukraine to, I guess, become, your puppet state essentially kind of thing, and you kind of get to control what's going on. This Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had carried out missile strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure and border guards, and explosions had been heard in many cities. An official also reported nonstop cyber attacks. Zelensky said that martial law has been declared. That's a big fucking deal. That he had spoken by telephone to Biden. Reservists were called up on Wednesday. I saw they're doing a draft, I guess, Ukraine, that is right now. Just 3 hours after Putin gave his order, Russia's defense ministry said it had taken out military infrastructure at Ukrainian air bases and had degraded its air defenses, Russian media reported. Earlier, Ukrainian media reported that military command centers in Kyiv and the city of Kharkiv in the northeast had been struck by missiles, while Russian troops had landed in the southern port of Odessa and Mariupol. Reuters witness later heard 3 loud blasts in Mariupol. Russia-backed separatists said they launched an offensive on the Ukrainian-controlled town Shasty on the east. Russia's Interfax news agency said, and the explosions also rocked the breakaway eastern Ukrainian city of Donetsk. Hours earlier, the separatists issued a plea to Moscow for help to stop alleged Ukrainian aggression, claims the United States dismissed as Russian propaganda. Global stocks and U.S. bond yields dived while the dollar and gold rocketed higher after Putin's address. Brent oil surged past $100 per barrel for the first time since 2014. Biden has ruled out putting U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine, said Putin had chosen a premeditated war that would bring a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. So it's definitely premeditated. It looks like the video that was recorded of this message that he sent out even looked fake. Not fake, but it looked pre-recorded. So it just looked like he was wearing the same outfit like this a couple of days ago, and it just seemed like the setup was the exact same. I don't know for sure if it was pre-recorded at that time, but it does seem that the evidence does seem to suggest that is the case. So that is what it appears to be as of right now. And you guys probably, hopefully, saw the video. I'll play the video because it's kind of clear. But Putin was clearly already planning on annexing, the Luhansk and Donetsk region, obviously. So everyone is responding to this. Some of the new updates that are coming in right now, we can kind of check out. It says Belarus's Lukashenko convenes a meeting with military state media, says Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko will convene a meeting with his military state-run news agency Belta report on Thursday. So they're coming in also through Belarus. So it's a double whammy where you're coming in from two sides, north and east. Ukrainian Defense Ministry of Russian troops are suffering losses. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense said Thursday's forces are countering the Russian offensive with dignity and inflicting losses on Moscow's troops. National Defense Forces using the right for self-defense according to Article 51 United Nations Charter are countering with dignity the enemy's attempts to break through the state border, the ministry said in a statement shared on WhatsApp. Situation is controlled. The Russian troops are suffering losses. The ministry also said there had been no losses among the defenders of Ukraine. Not sure how that works. Earlier, Russia's Ministry of Defense said it had neutralized Ukrainian air defenses. CNN has been unable to independently verify either of those claims. This is likely, I think this is probably going to be a famous picture, I'm thinking. This is going to go down in history. There's long lines of cars in Kyiv heading out of Ukrainian capital. So, Kyiv is, it's pretty out west, as you can see. Well, it's a little bit west of center. They're probably just departing Kyiv to move westward. I don't know if Poland is going to allow any Ukrainians to enter or any of those countries around them. I don't know what Moldova's politics are, but there's obviously a lot of bordering nations around there. If they're going to allow anybody to get in, I'm not sure. I would imagine Poland probably would, because Poland doesn't like, Russia, obviously. But this is a long line of cars. Imagine being in like that kind of traffic. I can't even imagine what it is the Ukrainians are going through right now. I mean, that's absolutely fucking insane. This explosion has also been reported in other parts of Ukraine, including Kharkiv and the port city Odessa. Russian military vehicles enter Ukraine from Crimea. So they're coming in from Crimea, obviously, the southeast area. Russian military vehicles enter Ukraine through Crimea, according to a video released by the Ukrainian border guard. It's unclear which border crossing vehicles are entering Ukraine from Chongar in the east or Kalanchuk in the west. Early this morning, live stream video from the Belarus border crossing showed a column of troops and military vehicles crossing into Ukraine. The video was shot around 6:48 a.m. local time at the crossing between Senkivka, Ukraine, Veselovka, Belarus. Ukrainian border guard told CNN in a statement earlier the borders were attacked by Russia and Belarus with the use of artillery, heavy equipment, and small arms. So obviously Belarus is a puppet state, and Russia has a bunch of puppet states around it, like Kazakhstan and stuff like that. They're puppet states to different degrees. But he came in to help, Kazakhstan's leader recently, trying to maintain all the border nations to be, in your pocket. Obviously, Belarus, Lukashenko is just, Putin's lapdog essentially. So he's going to be taken down soon enough. I don't know when it's going to happen, but they're trying to crush the protests. The rest of the world is coming out. Obviously, Europe and them. Really, I would say what Europe is going to do isn't really going to be like that much of an X factor, given that they already seem to be pretty hostile. I know that Macron seemed to be very attempting to do, diplomacy, so maybe that could be viewed as him being like more, sympathetic or nice. Really what's interesting is what China's going to do. China's probably going to pounce on this and retake Taiwan, probably, is what I'm imagining. That's what they're probably going to do. They've kind of forged a closer bond now between Russia and China. And so Russia seems to have China's back pretty clearly now. But But yeah, so people, let's look. It says Chinese embassy in Ukraine warns nationals stay inside and put Chinese flags on their cars for safety. Chinese embassy in Ukraine released a warning for its citizens in the country early Thursday, urging them to place the Chinese flag on their vehicles for safety. The situation in Ukraine has deteriorated dramatically. There have been bombings in multiple cities and military operations are underway. Urged citizens to stay home and away from windows or glass, warning serious riots may happen on the streets. It added that if Chinese nationals are driving on the roads, a Chinese national flag can be affixed to the visible part of the car body. So it's going to be very weird to see what China's going to end up doing. But I think what they're going to do is, I don't know what Chinese-Ukrainian relations are. That actually might be an interesting thing to look up. Chinese-Ukrainian relations, definitely something I want to see. But like I said, they're pretty close to Russia. They're pretty close. In terms of relations, so they're gonna take advantage, probably take back Taiwan, I'm imagining. It says China's Ukraine's largest trading partner, so that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I'm not sure. It's pretty interesting. China invariably supports Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So it's going to be a weird situation with all that stuff for sure. U.S. Embassy in Kyiv tells Americans to shelter in place. Russian military claims to met no resistance from Ukrainian border guards. Aircraft denial. Same statement, Russian military denied claims by Ukrainian force that they had downed several Russian aircraft, saying reports do not correspond with reality. So we're not really going to be able to know the truth about what's going on in terms of the battles. It's really, really hard to tell. Although there are some, videos coming out in this situation. Let's see. I'll pull up some videos of the air sirens. Let's look through some of the videos going around. Okay, this is even more updated map, I guess. Let's check out this map. So it looks like Kyiv is really getting peppered pretty bad. You can see that's a lot of stars there as well, like 7. So they really seem to be going after the capital more than anything else, obviously. That's in comparison to this one. So a few more attacks have been done in Kyiv. Some more, all the way westward, which is, they're going all the way west. If you compare these two, here, let me just pull up 2 tabs for this, right? This seems stupid to keep flipping back and forth like that. Doesn't make sense. You can see attacks going on, further westward, right? Because you can see there's one in Lviv, one southwest of Lviv. That's right next to Poland, right? I mean, that's Poland to the west, if I'm not mistaken. So it's so that's got to be really scary for Poland too. It's got to be very worrisome for any country that's bordering. And if Ukraine gets invaded by Russia, I mean, there's so many countries that are bordering Ukraine that now have to worry about Russia. Hungary, Romania, Moldova, Slovakia, Lithuania, all these different countries, all gonna have to worry about this kind of thing. So it's really crazy to see what's going down here. I would definitely be worried if I were one of those countries. I mean, none of these countries really like Russia. Any countries that do is typically a puppet of Putin. But you can see there's a lot of bombings, a lot of attacks. This is definitely a huge deal going down. Let me see here. Some of the main changes. Some attacks in the south. Largely, it looks like there's starting to be a shift of more attacks westward. I don't even see really a difference in any of the eastern attacks. So it seems like they're more shelling the west, and I'm sure this is going to keep going up and up as time goes on. Throughout the night, obviously, it's daytime over there, it's nighttime here. It's about 12 a.m. PST right now. Doesn't look like Biden is down to commit ground troops. What is it to do in that situation? I'm not really sure. It's a very tough call. Let's see. me see. These are some of the air raid sirens going off right now. Shit's loud. So air raids going off, air raid sirens. It's pretty crazy that there's literally air raid sirens going off. I mean, it's definitely is. Anytime I think of air raid sirens, honestly, my mind just goes to like Britain in World War II. You can see cars trying to get out, trying to leave. This is definitely really huge. It's very crazy for sure. Let me just pull this up right here. It says Kyiv residents huddled inside a metro station, which serves as a bomb shelter after air raid sirens sounded earlier on Thursday morning. Again, like air raid sirens, air raid shelters. That I immediately think Britain in World War II, especially London. You know, all the air raid sirens from all the air raids by the Luftwaffe going on through the night. So definitely pretty concerning stuff going on. So smoke and flames seen in the distance near Kharkiv, Ukraine, amid reports of explosion and air raid sirens in cities across the country. So you can see fire and smoke, you know, going on in the background there. Really horrible stuff going on. Some air raid sirens in Kyiv. I don't know what Russia's goal here is, though. I don't know what they're trying to do. That's the confusing part. Got air raid sirens in Lviv, which is like all the way. I mean, Lviv is like all the way in the west. That's like damn near essentially bordering Poland, so it's all the way west. But a lot of attacks on Kyiv. Yeah, lots of air raids going off. We can just kind of like type in Ukraine and just look through stuff. Just see the different news things going on. Lots of Kyiv attacks, as you can see. They're moving west too. Those attacks moving west. But yeah, what can people really do? What can the other countries really do? You can't really put boots on the ground because that's just too much of an escalation into a potential like that. If you are committing, obviously even if you commit ground troops, like I don't think that's gonna mean that you are, Jesus fucking Christ. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be nuclear war, but it's definitely a huge escalation in that direction, and that's why I think Biden hasn't done it. Will he commit U.S. troops to Ukraine under any circumstances? I mean, I don't think he will. I just don't. There's just no way. I mean, you'd have to, in order to commit boots on the ground, I would imagine you'd have to think of it as being like a Neville Chamberlain, you know, like fucking, Sudetenland type of situation. With Czechoslovakia, this and Hitler. It's the only way you would think that. You would have to think that Russia's attempting to do like a World War II-esque takeover, you know, a la, you know, Nazi Germany. It's the only way you could probably do that. You could consider doing that. And I'm not convinced that they're trying to do World War III. Although I do think that they're trying to regain their Soviet Union status. I do believe that that is actually what they're trying to do. So I think that that's their goal. But, like, what is their goal with this Ukraine war that they've started? I mean, this is obviously a war. They're bombing the entire country, essentially sending in troops. I don't know where the troops are right now, where they have, advanced to. But what is the goal of Russia here? Is the goal to pressure Ukraine into being pro-Russia? Is the goal occupation? Is it a goal of I don't know, installing a puppet government? Is it, I don't know, like what exactly is the goal if you're Russia in this situation? I'm not particularly sure. You know, you could take it over and annex it, but that would be really fucking hard. Like really, really difficult. You would run into serious roadblocks. So I just don't understand what the goal is. Ukraine was never going to be allowed into NATO. So I don't know where that BS stuff is coming from. So I just don't see what the win for this is for Russia. I just don't see what it is. Ukraine didn't pose any kind of real threat of any kind to Russia. And so if you clearly can't just get away with just taking over, I don't know what your goal here is. I just don't understand the goal. I don't know what it is. I feel like you're just bringing more shit on yourself. I don't know if economic sanctions are really enough to make Russia do anything. I don't know. You can see big ass fucking like smoke clouds coming out of that shit, looking like fucking broccoli. This is Vinnytsia, warehouse of the Ukrainian armed forces. This is Kharkiv. Got explosions going off in Kharkiv. Also, this now forces Erdogan for middle ground between West and Putin to aligning against Putin. Big naval implications. Yeah, so I saw that I think Zelensky had requested Erdogan block access to the Black Sea, block Putin's access to the Black Sea. So that's something that's, you know, potential definite ramification for him. I just don't know what the goal is here. I just don't know what the goal is. I mean, you're just bombing all across all of Ukraine, west, middle, south, north, east. You're attacking everywhere. You know, this is the old one, by the way. This isn't the new one. I don't know what the goal is. I mean, he's saying that the goal is not to occupy. You can't believe anything Putin says, obviously. I mean, look at all those fucking bombings on Kyiv, dude. Look at all these Russian attacks. This is like this is crazy. I mean, so it's like, what the fuck is your goal? I don't know. And again, like, you're getting like real close to Poland. You're getting really close to these other countries where it's like, okay, and you're coming in through Belarus as well. You're like doing like a double in, you know? It's just kind of like, oh shit. So yeah, I don't know. China will back up Russia, but only to a point. All China wants is Russia's oil, nothing else. I don't even know if China really cares about. I'm sure it cares about Russia's oil, but I think China is more looking at it from a perspective of just fighting American hegemony. And so I think that's the reason why they're doing it, just as like they're against America, we're against America kind of thing. Otherwise, I don't think that they really care. I mean, Russia, like Russo-Sino relations, like, when were they last even that good? Like, what, Stalin days? I mean, it had to be like Stalin days, right? Like, that's a long fucking time ago. They definitely, like, China fucking hated Russia during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And obviously, they didn't have good relations because China was like, oh, you're going away from the communist direction. So it's not like they've really had good relations since like what, like the 30s or some shit like that, or the 40s, like the 40s or whatever. So what is China gonna, like, China is the X factor. I think China is the X factor. We already know what Europe is gonna do. We already know what Britain and Germany and France and all these countries are gonna do. Like, where does a China, which is like, okay, they're kind of a wild card because they support Ukraine. China's actually their biggest trading partner. Not that that's like a big deal to China or anything like that, but they have relations with Ukraine. And, you know, I guess on their website, they say that they support Ukraine's sovereignty. You know what that means? I don't know. But they're obviously the X factor here, and like, oh, like they could really shift shit. So what are they going to do? I think they're going to take advantage of this. They're going to take over Taiwan. And that's also why I think they would support them, that Russia being, for Taiwan. I don't know how big of a deal Taiwan, like Ukraine is like, bruv, like Ukraine is a big country, dude. I mean, it's got 44 mil, but like, look at how big the country is. Like, that's a fucking big country, bro. Like, that's no joke. So it's like, this is not just some little shit. Like, it's not some Taiwan, you know what I mean? Which is like more of like that. Like, Ukraine is fucking massive, bro. Ukraine is huge. I don't know how much of Ukraine is habitable if it's the same Russia trick. But like, bro, like, Ukraine is a big nation, man. It's no joke, man. No joke. That is a big country. It's a huge, like, wall between Russia and, Ukraine is kind of like a wall between sort of like the Western, like, Schengen countries, and then, the eastern side of Europe. So it's a really, really pivotal area for Russia. And so, if you get Ukraine, you're now bordering Poland. Poland's now bordering Belarus and, the Russian puppet of Ukraine. It's like, keep moving westward. Where does Putin stop? Does he stop at Ukraine? Like, what? I don't know. Like, does he stop at Ukraine? What is the goal of this? I don't know. I don't know what the goal of this is. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know what it is. No nuke's not gonna have Putin is insane, but he's not that far gone. Is Russia an ethno-state? No, I don't think so. China actually sympathizes with Ukraine a little bit. China hates the concept of breakaway regions getting independence. That's what Taiwan is. The U.S. is to Taiwan, what Russia was to Donetsk. China sympathizes with Ukraine a little bit. Oh, so you're saying like they sympathize with Ukraine because of the Luhansk and Donetsk? I didn't look at it that way. Where do you say that they feel sympathetic though? Where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from? The 2014 thing wasn't a U.S. coup. That was just a revolution. I don't know how the CIA could orchestrate something like that massive. Are you talking about like the Euromaidan protest? You think that was like manufactured by the United States entirely or even mostly? Like, we're not talking like Luhansk and Donetsk. We're talking like Ukraine wide. They only have to occupy Kyiv and eastern Ukraine, already have Crimea. Well, no, like what about westwards though? I mean, you got Kyiv is obviously huge. It's super important. It's in the middle. It's actually west of the middle, but like then you start moving west towards like Lviv, like all the way over there. It's like, whoa, that's fucking huge. China is Ukraine's biggest trade partner. Yeah, I just said that. I don't think you'll stop at Ukraine. I think he'll continue on to other post-Soviet nation states. So where does he go from there? I don't know what Romania's relations with Russia are, or Moldova. I don't know. But does he move towards Moldova? Does he move toward? Does he go towards Poland? Like, holy shit, dude! Like, that'd be fucking crazy. I think she updated. Sure, Taiwan would mean war with the U.S. No, the U.S. is not. There's no way the U.S. is gonna go to war over Taiwan. No fucking chance. Even if like it's treaty protected, there's just no way. Like, that's way too risky for, like, you're not gonna risk a nuclear like holocaust essentially over Taiwan. Like, you're just not gonna do that. It's the same reason why there's no troops on the ground in Ukraine. Ukraine is like, how big even is Taiwan compared to Ukraine? Like, Ukraine is fucking massive, dude. Beijing says Taiwan is not Ukraine, has always been part of China. China says Ukraine and Taiwan can't be compared, but she wants land back too. Chinese media accidentally post CCP rules on Russia-Ukraine coverage. Hint at Taiwan takeover. Chinese news media posted instructions on social platforms about how to approach coverage on Ukraine. And let me pull up the article, sorry. You can see it. I can see where this vid. Alright. Chinese media accidentally post CCP rules on Russia-Ukraine coverage, hint at Taiwan takeover. Chinese news media posted instructions on social platforms about how to approach coverage on Ukraine, including a note of China's need for Russian support with Taiwan. One outlet appeared to accidentally post guidelines on what should and should not be published, while an editor from another outlet weighed in with guidance on language and approaches that he believed necessary in walking a fine line. Ming Jinwei, senior editor at Xinhua News Agency, wrote in his WeChat blog about how his outlet needed to walk a tight line in its Ukraine coverage, noting that China has to back Russia up with emotional and moral support while refraining from treading on the toes of the United States and European Union. In the future, China will also need Russia's understanding and support when wrestling with America to solve the Taiwan issue once and for all. Ming said that it doesn't hurt to use moderately pro-Russia language. In Horizon News, social media account belonging to CCP-owned Beijing News, appeared to post similar instructions, along with the note that no post unfavorable to Russia or with pro-Western content should be published. Horizon News post was later deleted, according to the Washington Post. Okay. Along with no posts unfavorable to Russia or pro-Western content should be published. So they're definitely going in with the Russia slant here. They're definitely siding with Russia over Ukraine in this situation. It's obvious. You can see this here. But China they're really the big X factor here, I would say. I mean, I think everybody knows what the Schengen area and the rest of the West is going to do. But China is they're the big dog. They're the X factor here because we don't exactly know what they do, and they would really have a lot of influence on this. Let's see. Let's read this article too. Let's check this out. Beijing says Taiwan is not Ukraine, has always been part of China. China's foreign ministry on Wednesday said Taiwan is not Ukraine, has always been part of China, amid Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's call to ramp up vigilance on military activities in response to the crisis in Ukraine. Foreign Ministry spokesperson how is that pronounced? Hua Chunying dismissed the concerns of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who said there might be worldwide consequences, including for Taiwan, if Western nations fail to support Ukraine's independence. Oh, so they're responding to that. Interesting. Taiwan is not Ukraine, Hua said while speaking in Beijing. Taiwan has always been an inalienable part of China that is an indisputable legal and historical fact. Hua noted that the situation with Taiwan is a result of the country's civil war in the mid-20th century, but that China's integrity should have never been compromised and has never been compromised. In 1949, government of the Republic of China fled to Taiwan to escape communist forces, who formed the People's Republic of China the same year. However, Taiwan has vehemently opposed China's claims over the island, with Tsai noting that it is still a self-governing Republic of China, according to Reuters. Taiwanese president told a working group on the Russia-Ukraine crisis established by our National Security Council that all security and military units must raise their surveillance and early warnings of military developments around the Taiwan Strait. So even they kind of know. Noted that Taiwan and Ukraine are fundamentally different in various ways, including geography and internal supply chains. But in the face of foreign forces intending to manipulate the situation in Ukraine and affect the morale of Taiwanese society, all government units must strengthen a prevention of cognitive warfare launched by foreign forces and local collaborators. Tsai expressed empathy for Ukraine's situation because of Taiwan's own military threat. While the statement did not specifically refer to mainland China by name, it is the most significant military threat the East Asian island faces. So I mean, they're definitely, I definitely see them doing that kind of thing for sure. Stepping in with Taiwan. I definitely can see that happening. Them taking advantage. And so they're the X factor here. What exactly they're going to do, I don't know. I definitely have a lot more to learn about Taiwan for sure. And so I will definitely do that research into Taiwan more. Let me see here. If Russia takes all of Ukraine, there's a good chance Finland and Sweden will snap join NATO and Moldova will snap reunify with Romania. May Russian taxpayers enjoy their stretched out defense then. So that's interesting, because I had seen recently that Finland and Sweden were thinking of joining NATO. Let me actually pull out a map. We can kind of look at this, visualize it. I don't know if this is perfectly updated or not. We got Ukraine over here. But yeah, you got I guess, is it even showing them up there? Yeah. So, you got the countries up over there. So they're going to obviously be worried as well. So I saw that, Finland and Sweden were talking about that as well. So, I mean, I guess if they go over there, yeah, because I guess they share a border with them. I didn't even realize. So Russia borders Finland as well then? Russia also shares a border with Finland? So, yeah, if you're any country in the area, I mean, you're worried. There's not that much distance in Europe. I mean, there's not that much distance, especially in like Western Europe. There's barely any distance anywhere, so everything's very, very close. U.S. will defend Taiwan conventionally. If China wants to escalate, it'll be up to them. U.S. committed to Taiwanese defense and it will be defended. No, I don't think it would be. I don't think the U.S. would. I think they would pull out. I don't think they want to get involved with that. It's just too risky. Next possible steps, treaty with Belarus from 20 years ago provides a clause for one to absorb the other. The Bel president at the time was Putin's rival for leadership and thought it would work out. Belarus 20 years ago provides a clause for the one to absorb the other. That being Belarus and Russia or Belarus and Ukraine? Like Biden says he was committed to defending Taiwan, but seriously, like, we're talking, like, what do you mean? Like, you think if China invades, like, boots on the ground, you think if China does that, the U.S. is going to bring boots on the ground to defend Taiwan? You really believe that? There's no way, bro. There's no way. There's just no way you think that. Russia is not attacking Poland. I think, okay, I think this would probably be fallacious. Yeah, I think that argument I was going to use would be fallacious. At least I think it would. I wonder what logical fallacy that would be, though. I want to figure that out. I mean, it's just like, it's the unknown kind of factor, obviously, in there, but I wouldn't rule out an attack against Poland. Well, nah, yeah, I think you're right. They're not going to attack them. That would be like, if they attack Poland, like, that's going to be boots on the ground worthy for sure. If you attack a country like Poland, yeah, that's boots on the ground worthy for sure. Ukraine Air Force's jet landed in Romania, had no runways left working, looks bad for Ukraine. If Russia chases into NATO, Romania, that could be huge. If Russia chases into NATO, Romania, that could be huge. So what are Romanian Russo relations? I don't know what Romanian Russo relations are. Are they good? Are they bad? You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure what they are. But yeah, like, these different countries are going to be pushed towards NATO. Again, I don't see how this helps Russia. I just don't see how it helps them, because all these other countries around are going to be like, oh shit, like, we need to join NATO. By the way, Ukraine, there was no chance of Ukraine actually getting into NATO. That was never going to happen. That these other countries are like, oh shit, like, if they're expanding this way, we're next. I mean, look at this shit, dude. I mean, look at all the borders Ukraine has. And these little dinky rink countries, dinky rink, like Romania and Moldova and these countries, like, those shits would get literally like rocked, shellacked by Russia. So they're like, fuck, like, we're next. But yeah, I don't know if that Air Force thing is true or not, but not to doubt you, but it's hard to believe any of the reports out right now. 2014 Maiden was a revolution. Now, the 2014 Maiden with like hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, revolting, that was all the CIA. Now, that's not to say like the CIA might have like aided a little bit. Obviously, I'm sure that they helped in some way, but I think they still would have done it without it. Moldova isn't Russian occupied on the region of Transnistria. Yeah, well, I was under the impression Moldova was an independent sovereign nation. The United States may secretly be celebrating this invasion and completely isolates Russia now. I can't know. The U.S. is not happy. Biden is definitely not happy. Because this makes Biden look like complete shit. This really, this is horrible for Biden. This is absolutely terrible for Biden, dude. Because all this stuff is happening under his administration, so people are going to look at him like, oh, you're the pussy that all this stuff is happening under. Kind of like the Jimmy Carter effect. So, no, I don't even know what you mean by the U.S. I'm not even really sure what that means. When will we check Anna from TYT for being RT? I'm not sure what you mean exactly by that, but I did hear that Anna. I saw a tweet from Anna saying that she will. I'll pick it up. Let me see. So someone says, when will you admit you were wrong awfully about Ukraine? You claimed that the U.S. government was just warmongering and that Russia would not attack. Here's one thing I have to say. The U.S. intelligence under Joe Biden seems to have been pretty accurate. Now, my sample size is kind of small, but I'm just thinking about during all this stuff going on with Afghanistan. I remember the sources were reporting it was the day of or the night before. It was attack on the airport is imminent, and then it ended up happening the next day or some shit like that. And then with this, that also ended up going off on that one. And so I think almost nobody thought that this would happen. So I definitely didn't think that Russia was going to do this. I mean, this is just mentally deranged. I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know what the idea is. But she says, looks like I was wrong about Russia. I definitely underestimated Putin's likelihood to invade, but I won't apologize for being skeptical of our State Department. So, yeah, Anna apologizing for this one. I saw Jimmy Dore being a supporter of Russian imperialism. Obviously, he's mentally, disabled. But yeah, so she is... Oh, you can't see it. Oops. You can't see it. Sorry. My apologies. You couldn't see that. Stop being CNN. You're overhyping the threat. Every area in the country does not have to worry. How? How would you not have to worry? Especially if you're fucking Moldova or Romania, Bulgaria, any of these countries in the area. Dude. Look at Belarus. Belarus is a puppet state right now, too. All of these countries around, Russia could fuck them up really hard. Any of them. Any of them. They could fuck them up, really easily. All of these countries, they could get fucked really hard. Really, really hard. I don't know what you mean. And these are not... the thing about these countries, too, end up being is, you have to draw a line at some point of, you're trying to start, a world conflict. So, Poland would be that line. If Poland got invaded, I mean, that's World War III status type of shit. Just like it's the official start of World War II. But the other states, let's say fucking Moldova gets taken over, Romania or somewhere like that, is that a World War III moment? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. Because you could still make the argument, oh, it's just small countries or whatever in the area. So you really have a lot to fear. Really have a lot to fear. And just keep in mind, where's that picture? I mean, these are the attacks. It's probably updated by now. This is almost an hour ago at this point. Moscow stock market plunges nearly 29%. So these are all of the bombs and bombings and attacks that have been dropped in the country of Ukraine. So this is no joke what's going down right now. This is no joke whatsoever. Romania is NATO. Oh, Romania's in NATO? Romania-Russian relations aren't good. U.S. has been committed to Taiwan since the 50s. Ukraine was a Russian ally in 2014. Not even comparable. Moldova is Russian-occupied Romania. Belgium used to be the tripwire. We must go to conventional war if Poland was invaded. Bro, Romania is part of NATO. That would be World War III. Okay, I see. I didn't know they were part of NATO. I didn't know that. Seems to be no tactical analysis that can explain Putin's actions right now. I'm just trying to understand a legitimate explanation of what Putin is doing just from a brain point of view. Like, I'm just trying to understand what he's thinking in terms of his plan of what he's doing. I don't know what it is. Is he demented? Is he having a 7/8 life crisis? What the fuck is going on? I just don't understand a reasonable explanation for what he's doing from a political maneuvering, analytical, logistical standpoint. I just don't understand it. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Supported sacrificing Ukraine to Russia's sphere of influence. I'm surprised Anna would say that, actually, because remember, it's funny because the Jimmy Dore types say that Anna's like a NATO show or something like that, or getting paid by NATO or something. So I'm surprised, and since Jimmy Dore is taking this similar view, I'm surprised that she would be willing to say the same thing. So that's definitely surprising to see. But now we not out here sacrificing like, bro, Ukraine's a big ass country, 44 million people. Like, we're not out here sacrificing country because Putin has a small PP. Like, we're not out here doing that. Interested to see what will happen with all the tankies after the situation. Moldovan and Romania, same language. Southern Moldovia went to Ukraine because the Ottomans divided and colonized southern Moldovia. Southern Moldovia went to Ukraine because the Ottomans divided and colonized southern Moldovia. Oh, so southern Moldovia is part of Ukraine? Moldova. And it was using Russian talking points while calling people on the left bad and warmongering. Hassan was banning people for saying Russia would invade. I haven't watched any of Hassan's coverage, so I can't exactly comment on whatever he was saying. But generally speaking, like, I just don't think you should go to Hassan Piker for like real political analysis of any kind. He's someone you go to for entertainment content and stuff like that. But I am surprised Anna would say that, though. I'm definitely surprised by that for sure. She definitely caught me off guard on that. I expect Hassan. I expect Hassan to say that. I'm not surprised. He's going to be one of those America bad guys. I don't know if there's any situation where he would defend America. But again, to be fair, I'm very surprised. I can't blame anybody for being wrong about Russia invading because, like, let's keep it real, dude. Like, who actually thought that Russia was going to invade? Who genuinely thought that this would happen? Like, it's fucking crazy. I definitely didn't. I didn't think they would do this. I mean, this is fucking crazy. So, I can't blame anybody for not predicting that they would invade, just because it's just so, like, it's such a difficult thing to predict. It's so out of the realm of normality or thought. So I'm definitely surprised Anna would say that. Very interesting, though. I think that might, maybe that gives her more credence in terms of being somebody who is, unique in political thought, I would say. Anytime I see somebody taking a different stance than what may be pegged by whatever group they're a part of, your respect usually grows for them because, like, oh, they're not just some person who just follows a group and says the same stuff kind of thing, And as saying she didn't trust America, the media, and their intentions. Thought they would invade the eastern half of the country up to the Dnieper River, weakening the country and cutting it in half. Thought Russia would invade the rest of the Donbass. Honestly surprised they've launched an all-out assault this quickly. I mean, the thing is, like, dude, they had already did an invasion of the Donbass region a long time ago. They did that shit a long time ago, so it was just like a weird quasi-invasion where it's like you're sending in troops, but it's like these weird troops, and it's like unconventional troops or whatever. Like 15 to 80% of the combatants in the area were like Russian at a certain point, so it's just they had already done that. So I guess the media is just bad at explaining that stuff, but yeah, them to be shelling the entirety of the country, that's fucking crazy. Vosh is a CIA op, Mossad most likely. Didn't Vosh get like banned from Twitch for like saying Israel was like a hell or something like that? What the fuck are you talking about? I feel like U.S. is going out about this old fashioned. Russia launched a massive cyber attack on U.S. top of pandemic and inflation. It's over for us. Why? What would happen to the U.S.? Why would it be over? Vosh said the invasion was more likely for a while now. Even if here's the thing, like no matter what your prediction was, like why did you make that prediction? So like I'd have to know why Vosh predicted that. I just don't see how could you, what information would push you to make this prediction of what exactly is going on? Like what would happen? What made you think like, oh, this is why I'm predicting that Russia is going to invade? That's what I want to know. That kind of thing. So because you could just flip a coin and guess something, 50-50 chance. But if you tell me why, that would make it interesting. All Western propaganda. Hassan next stream, dude, Russia will not invade Romania just because it invaded Ukraine. Like, dude, Putin's not insane. Why did lefties not cover when Crimea was annexed? Why care now? I mean, I think it did get covered back then. I remember specific lefties, but I remember back in like 2014, that shit was all over the news, hearing it on the radio and stuff. Hearing that all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. Anna brought on guest experts tonight saying Russia would not invade the whole country. Like how the West thinks all the invasions, killing bombs, we do good, Russia bad, no respect to me, just spits out Pentagon talking points as facts. What you're saying is really no more clever, interesting than what they're saying. Because it seems like people like you are saying that what U.S. does is bad, and so therefore what Russia does is good. Caleb Maupin's Twitter is disgusting right now. Why? What is he saying? I'm leaning towards Putin is drunk on the nationalism Kool-Aid and has lost it. NATO being strengthened is a huge win for U.S. interests now. I just wish the relations would improve. Like, we definitely just need to get over this Cold War era bullshit, honestly. There's no reason to have these kinds of relations between the U.S. and Russia and Europe and Russia. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why this shit still exists. Like, it's over. Like, communism has lost. That whole shit has lost. Like, it lost the war. It's just, or I guess you could say it's a battle. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure the commies are saying, it's a war or whatever. The battle was lost, but it just doesn't make sense to me why this needs to happen. It doesn't make sense. There's no real need for this kind of contrarianism going on. People are acting as though Hassan is pro-Putin or some shit. 1, stronger NATO. 2, defend NATO defense spending. 3, isolated Russia. It just depends on how much the Schengen area can really impact Russia, because who's really going to be isolating Russia? It's going to have to be like those Schengen nations. Other than that, I mean, it's not like China's going to make a turn. If China makes a turn, then it's like, oh shit, that's a big fucking deal. But I don't think China's going to do shit. I think they're going to, like those reports are saying, they're going to stick with Russia, and then when they want to take back Taiwan, they want Russia to back them. So, so yeah. Putin wants Russia to return to its glory days. Yeah. It's just like, bro, like Russia would be so much better if it just, and this is not just Russia's fault, I should say. Like, this is also the US and the rest of the world's fault. It's both of their faults, I would say. It's not just Russia's fault. I don't want to make it seem like it's just blame on them. But Russia could be much, much greater and much, much bigger if it like opened up its markets more and it had better relations, regulated corruption, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff. It would be much better of an economy and a stronger country, but because they're, so self-isolating and all that stuff, which also, again, it's not just Russia's fault, it's also other countries' fault. It's also Europe and the US's fault for not, really bringing down tensions. So it's both parties' fault, I would say. But like Russia would be much greater than it is now if it were in that situation. It could be much, much greater of a nation. I mean, right now it has some measly, like, sub $2 trillion GDP, which is just, it's really funny. Russia's invaded 4 places the past 20 years, and I have people on the left saying they won't invade really well. Russia has over 150,000 troops surrounding a border Ukraine. What political objectives Russia has after has forced Ukraine to recognize Luhansk and Donetsk and annex some territory or totally annex Ukraine? I don't know. That's the hard thing to figure out is what on earth is the goal of what he's doing. I really just don't know what the goal is, so I can't really tell you. It's a genuine question that I have. Like, forget politics in terms of like partisan politics, I should say. I just want to know what exactly his goal is with what he's doing. I'm genuinely curious because I want to understand what his goal is here. Is it to occupy Ukraine? Is it to annex it? Is it to make it a puppet state? Is it to just push it into being more nice to them? Is it to scare them? Like, what is the goal? I don't know. I don't know what the goal is. I just don't understand. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you in terms of what on earth it is that his political goal or aim is. I don't fucking know. The only thing I think could explain it is legitimately some kind of mental degradation of some kind. I don't know what else could explain it, because like Ukraine is not a serious threat to Russia in any way, shape, or form. Like, not even a little bit. Ukraine is never going to join NATO. It's been dead on arrival for a long time. It's been dead. So I don't know, that's just a bullshit talking point. That's just not a threat to Russia in any real way. So that's not a real thing. So what is it other than he wants to expand? That's the only thing you could say is he wants to expand. But on what terms? I just don't know. I'm not sure. Does he stop at Ukraine? I don't fucking know. I don't know what's wrong with the guy. Or what he's thinking. Ukraine is not a military threat to Russia in literally any way, shape, or form, dude. Like, not even a little bit is it a military threat of any kind whatsoever. That's crazy. That's crazy to say that. What kind of a threat do they pose? An invasionary threat? What, Ukraine's about to invade Russia? About to bomb Russia? Like, what the fuck? Ukraine's a little baby, dude. Little toddler. Putin looked weird in that speech. Usually cares about his looks, but that reminded me of Yeltsin. Imagine Putin walks in the office and shoots the Ukrainian president. What? He looks like he has cancer or something. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a terminal cancer diagnosis. Ukraine's not going to join NATO. That shit has been dead for a long time. There's no real chance of them joining NATO. Even if they did join NATO, it still wouldn't be like, it's still not a threat. It's still not a real threat. Even in that situation, if they join NATO, what threat is it to Russia? I didn't think Putin would be willing to go all the way. How can we bomb Ukraine? We have our disagreements, but this is not a way to solve them, said Ksenia Fadiva. Who is that? ¿Quién es esto? What is his name? Fadiva? I just want to know what are the position of Russians on this? Like, do Russians support this? I mean, like, bro, like, what do Russians think about this? Having NATO on your doorstep? Yeah, even in that situation, which again, they're not going to join NATO, I don't really know what threat that would serve. What is NATO going to do? Invade Russia? Get the fuck out of here. Talked to some random Russian playing CSGO the other day and they supported it, but that is a sample of 4. Western media say Russians are opposed to war. What are Putin's approval ratings? This is 60% in July 2020. Says Putin's approval grows amid Ukraine tensions. So it seems like it was like his approval started to slip a little bit. Like they started to slip a little bit during the COVID crisis, and so he started up the Ukraine stuff again, just like he did in 2014 to get more domestic support. But his numbers are going up, so that would seem to indicate that Russians support the invasion, which is really fucked up. Very fucked up. Tankies, USA imperialism bad. China, Russia imperialism good. Yeah, I mean, these like supposed lefties who are anti-US imperialism, they're not anti-imperialist. They're just anti-US imperialist. If it's any other country doing imperialism, getting the buffer states or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they support it. So they're not anti-imperialism. They're just anti-US imperialism. But if it's an enemy of the United States, they support it. Thank you for the 5, Clarence. That was a quote from Moscovian. It's crazy, like all these countries want to be a part of NATO too. Now even like Finland and Sweden are trying to join too. The fact that like these countries want to be part of NATO is just like, bruh. There's so many countries that just hate Russia's influence. NATO only expanded eastwards. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact already set the toxic precedent that neutrality cannot guarantee the safety of small countries. That's why they joined NATO. You realize NATO's already next door to Russia with Estonia, right? Where exactly is Estonia on here? Oh, it's up there, right there. What about Latvia and Lithuania? Thoughts on Kanye's Donda 2 BS? I think he's made a lot of money off of it. He's made a lot more money than he would traditionally from the STEM players. But, I mean, I haven't heard any of the songs. I thought Donda was trash outside of Hurricane and Off the Grid. So, it seems like a clown show. But, I mean, for him, he's made a lot of money. So, he's made way more than he would have made from traditional release. Good to know what average Russians think. Roosevelt, Ukraine, Ben gave up its nukes. Putin wants Ukraine. He's going to declare it as a Russian state. I don't. He goes in and shoots the Ukraine president power on the world stage. Dude, you insane? If you gulp water into the mic one more fucking time, why you don't like the noises? It wouldn't change NATO bases being next to Russia. Yeah, I mean the Ukraine NATO stuff is just all. It's all just Russian talking points anyway. It's not real. Kanye or Drake? Go Kanye. Supporting a preemptive war is now anti-imperialism. Feel bad for all the incels who used to look at Russia as their last hope for a wife. That door has closed now, I guess. That's really funny too, because like Russian women are not traditionalists in that they want to be like the cook at home. Like Russia has a history of a lot of egalitarianism. Same thing goes for like Polish women and stuff. So that's definitely an interesting thing to see that incels think that Russian women are going to be the traditionalist. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They're in for a rude awakening on that front, that's for sure. China arming Cuba with missiles is no big deal. No, so I mean, if you're a country in NATO, I mean, Estonia is part of NATO. It's right there, right? You don't want missiles on the border. Obviously, that's something that you'd come together and agree not to have. But otherwise, being a NATO country, I mean, what difference does it make? You're not going to invade. Ukraine is not going to do anything to Russia, and the rest of the world is not going to do anything to Russia. Russia is a massive, gigantic nuclear power. Nobody is touching Russia. Nobody. Not Ukraine, not the US, not the Schengen area, not NATO, not the EU. None of it, bro. Nobody's touching Russia, dude. They have a ton of nukes. No one wants to fight that shit. So why would that be something to worry about? But obviously, you're not going to want missiles on your border, but Norway also technically borders Russia. Ukraine war will not change Estonia bases. It's not water he is gulping, it's vodka. That expansion was a threat to them. Why do people in the US think any country sit by and let an adversary come up to their border? We wouldn't. There is no threat to Russia from Ukraine. Not even a little bit. Not even slightly. Who is the threat from? I love to live in Finland. Prayers to Ukraine. Do you live in Finland? Putin said missiles could reach Russia in 5 minutes. Ex-NATO head says Putin wanted to join alliance early on in his rule, Guardian. Who do you think would win the thermonuclear war, USA or Russia? I don't know. That's too hard to predict. I'm not sure. Maybe you could find some experts that could give you an expert opinion on that. Is Finland part of the EU? Yeah, I think so. They go past Donbass right now, there would be threat. They already had control of the area. They invaded with the proxy force. NATO is a hostile military force to Russia. Why wouldn't they be worried about that? Like I said, no one is touching Russia in any way, shape, or form. Nobody is attacking Russia. Russia is has a very large military. Doesn't really have much of anything else. Has a very large military, lots of nuclear weapons. There's a reason why there are not boots in the ground in Ukraine right now from the US. There is a reason for that, and that's because people do not want to touch Russia because they're a major nuclear power. You can't risk fighting a major nuclear power. You cannot risk fighting a major nuclear power because you have the threat of literal nuclear holocaust, which nobody wants to do because nobody wins that situation, and it's literally just... I mean, do I really have to explain? I mean, come on. It's a loss for everybody. Don't you think their fear of it is real? Their fear of what, though? What is their fear of? I don't understand. If your fear is of a neighboring NATO country, which they already have with Estonia, what is the threat? I just don't understand. What's the threat? Like I said, like nobody's fighting Russia. It's just to be a horrible idea. Nobody's dumb enough to do that. Wow, Russia's stock exchange down 45% already today. He just seems to be on like the weird like Hitler like nationalism shit. It says Asian markets fall sharply. Asian stock markets plunged and oil prices surged Thursday after President Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin announced Russian military action in Ukraine. Market benchmarks Tokyo and Seoul fell 2%, Hong Kong and Sydney lost more than 3%. Oil prices jumped nearly $3 per barrel on unease about possible disruption of Russian supplies. I think this is actually going to really push people in the direction of renewable energies because the price of oil is just getting so fucking insane. Like, it's crazy how expensive oil is getting. And so gas is so expensive. So it's like, I think it's going to start pushing people towards renewable energies as well. Made 7K on the fall of NASDAQ. This could turn out pretty bad for Putin depending on how bad Russia gets hurt. Sorry, 100 seconds to midnight. What are you talking about? It's fucking... It's 12:48. Korea was in the U.S. loss. Vietnam no exit strategy lost in the minds of people. That's true. No one is going to invade Russia, but the Russian oligarchs are irrational and they think it could happen. It's just like, why would the U.S. ever invade Russia? I don't understand. Maybe Iran had a point in wanting a bomb? Yeah, obviously. Why don't USA and Russia get along and everybody get to go to sleep easy? Just politics, man. Just politics. I wish like travel restrictions were raised. It's really hard, I think, to go from US to Russia and vice versa. But it's like, bro, like, there's not that big of a difference between Russians and Americans, man. We could all get along, dude. How can we resolve this issue? Ensure Ukraine's sovereignty by giving Ukrainians aid against Russia, I would say. Rallying literally everything possible to isolate Russia. Because diplomacy clearly hasn't worked. They never were looking for a diplomatic solution, though. I don't know if you guys saw that video. Seltzer Talk did a video on it. The dude is like shaking in his fucking boots, like talking to Putin. He's like the spy chief or whatever the fuck. And he kind of blurts out like, oh yeah, like we're planning on annexing. But he's like, no, we're not talking about that yet. We're talking about this. What was I saying though? What was my thought? What I was trying to say? Oh yeah. So you really want to get all the countries you can to isolate, sanction all the rich people in Russia. The oligarchs. Harm like big Russian businesses and all that stuff. What else can you do other than that stuff? I don't know what else outside of those two things. I don't know what else you could do. I mean, you could go like boots on the ground, but I'm not in favor of that. We can't risk World War III over Ukraine, even though you could definitely make a good ass argument, a decent argument, I would say. Not for World War III, but the risk of World War III is what I would say. Putin wanted him to say the regions are independent, but the guy kept talking about annexing them. Yeah, he jumped a quick like step forward is what I saw. Yeah, that was pretty obvious. Poor guy was like fucking shaking in his boots, dude. I wonder if that guy's dead. That guy's probably dead. Unless Putin doesn't give a fuck. Because I don't know why that came out. Like, if he gave a shit, wouldn't that video not have came out? You tired? Too much schoolwork? Nah, it's just late. I should be going to sleep. Who knows? Next regime could be worse. I wonder what Turkey is going to do. What is Erdogan going to do? I mean, Turkish-Russo relations are fucking dog shit. So... he shouldn't be... they're dog shit, right? So isn't Turkey willing to help Ukraine? Turkey is kind of an X factor, I would say, because they're in a weird role of like both sidesism. But I thought Erdogan Putin relations were fucking like dog shit. I thought they were beefing hard. Everyone in the country in the world is united against action by Russia. Not China. Probably not Belarus. Probably not Kazakhstan. The puppets. It's kind of like East Germany being like supporting all of Soviet Union's wars. It's funny looking at the Wikipedia page, all the like belligerents will be like Soviet Union, East Germany every time. Shocked there's two sides. I assume the world would agree this is wrong. The only people I really see defending it are like Tankies or like dumb, like mentally disabled, quote unquote leftists like Jimmy Dore. Other than that, this is going to be a really tough thing to defend though. They have a few routes. They could try to make a semantical argument and say it's not an invasion, even though it's a bombing. And, you know, one of the big thing about the left was like, you know, the U.S. bombing other countries. Obviously, that's a war. So I don't know how you say that, but I'm sure that could be a weasel way. Or you could just say that, you know, it's necessary for security. It's just hard to do when people are just dying, you know? Belarus is invading as well. Yeah, I mean, Belarus is Russia's bitch, yeah. Bro, is the drinking noise really that bad? This does capture a lot of sound, but I don't know why. I don't know why it captures... It didn't catch that much sound. Belarusian president is such a cuck. He said that Putin should give him a general title. Lukashenko. He's gonna get taken down soon. His people don't support him. Tankies are just fascists at this point. Yeah, but Tankies were always fascist. That's the thing. Tankies and fascists have pretty much the same almost. There's some differences, but for the most part, they're similar. I can hear your stomach and splash around in it. Jimmy got his brain scrambled by a sequence of guests. I'm pretty tired. Hopefully I gave you guys some good coverage on what's going on, I hope. Latvia is trending. Let's see what they're saying. Oh, is Latvia also part of NATO? Foreign Minister Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania jointly call for the strongest possible action of Russia after attack against Ukraine. Is Latvia part of NATO? Oh, okay, so Latvia is also part of NATO. So basically, I mean, doesn't that just rip the argument to shreds then? I don't understand. Doesn't that just rip the threat argument to shreds? It means you have Latvia, which shares a border with Russia, and Estonia both being part of NATO. So if they both share a border with Russia and they're part of NATO, what difference would it make if Ukraine was part of NATO? I don't understand. I'm confused. It's almost like it's a bullshit Russian talking point. And is Lithuania also? But Lithuania doesn't share a border. Man, that Kaliningrad area is fucking weird. That's so weird. Kaliningrad. I didn't know Kaliningrad was in the middle. It's in the middle of Poland and Lithuania. What the fuck? European geography is very weird, man. What the fuck? Why are there so many countries in Europe? Holy shit. The fuck? Is that a Russian bot? All the Baltic states are. That's the thing too, bro. Like, all these countries don't want anything to do with Russia, though, bro. They're like, leave me the fuck alone, dude. They're like, we want NATO. We want to join the EU. Russia's bombed all over Ukraine. Let's see if they had these dudes released in a new map or not. This is Moscow stock exchange continues to plummet down more than 45%. Moscow stock exchange says all trading suspended. So this is the map of attacks in Ukraine. Like, this is all over the country. Not only is it not just in the Donetsk and Luhansk region, it's literally everywhere, bro. Everywhere. Odessa in the south, Lviv in the west that, basically borders Poland, Kyiv in the middle, of the country. It's not even the middle. It's like, kind of a little bit to the left, and a little bit, it's up north too. It's just everywhere, though. Look, just all around the country. So, I mean, just think about, like, a country bombing another country like this, bro. Like, what would you call this other than a war? Like, are you serious? This is like a systemic... Oh, you can't even see it. Oops. Might be. But yeah, you can just see this is like... I mean, come on, dog. Come on, dog. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? Seriously, what are we talking about here? Or we should look out for Iran and North Korea as well. For what? You could put a lot of European countries in Texas. You could put a lot of the small ones, but the bigger ones, you probably only fit like 3. Which is still a lot. But it's crazy, though, how small Europe is. Like, dude, like... The distance between those countries, bro, is like the difference between... San Francisco and LA, dude. Like, that's like an 8-hour drive. Bro, I think you could get all the way across Germany in 8 hours. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy how small Europe is. You can like go for a walk and be in another country. It's kind of crazy. Look up the Holodomor. It's Holodomor. But yeah, Ukrainians have been getting fucked by the Soviet Union for a long time. Stalin, he starved, like 3 to like, highest end is like 13 million is the estimate. Like, starved them to death. So Ukraine's been getting fucked, so I feel really bad for Ukrainians. But that's the thing though, bro. Like, these European countries, like, bro, get Russia away from me. Leave me alone. Fuck off. They're like, dude, leave me alone. I want to join NATO. I want to join the EU. I want to have an advanced economy. I don't want the bullshit with Russia. And it's like, bro, these countries get to make their own decisions. Kaliningrad is to allow Russia a port there. Have you seen Russian bots and smaller Islamic channels? This shit broke. Russian bots are flooding everywhere. It was so obvious. This has never been about NATO, and it's all about Russian expansionism returning again. USSR except scrubbed clean of the few leftist features USSR barely had. Kaliningrad Oblast is the northern half of the former East Prussia. It was annexed directly into Russia, SSR. As kind of war trophy and retained largely for strategic purposes. I see. And Prussia was Germany, right? America can have a hard time controlling Russia and China. Iran, North Korea might take advantage of the situation when America is at its weakest. Yeah, but North Korea is not a serious like thing. Like, who cares about North Korea, dude? North Korea is a comedy show, you know? It's funny, makes for funny jokes on the Daily Show and stuff, but or just in general. It doesn't have to be the Daily Show, but North Korea is not a serious player of any kind in any way. Iran is definitely like, that's a more serious country, right? Like, it's a serious country. It's not like on Germany tier or some like huge country like that, but it's not like Japan or some shit like that, but it's still like a big country. So it's like North Korea, who gives a fuck? But Iran, it's like, okay, yeah. Moldova is the poorest country in Europe. Is Moldova part of... Moldova's not part of the EU, is it? Biden's move in Afghanistan was amazing. And honestly, as time goes on, I'm growing my admiration for his move in Afghanistan more and more. I'm looking at it like, oh shit, like, wow, dude. Like, as the time passes and all of the pain from pulling the band-aid off and all that shit is going away, it's like, wow. Like, that's like a big fucking deal that Biden did that, bro. Like, that's definitely something I'm finna remember for real. That's like a big fucking deal that he pulled out of Afghanistan, dude. Like, that's so crazy. It's still hard to even believe he actually did that shit, dude. Like, it's crazy. So I have to give him a lot of credit because he ripped the band-aid off, dude. He ripped that shit off. It hurt really fucking bad, but he ripped that shit off. So I give him a lot of credit on that because that is something... We haven't seen something like that. When's the last time we've seen something like that? I mean, just... It almost feels like never. So his move in Afghanistan gains more and more credit as the days go on. I grow more and more in my admiration for that move. Very, very impressed by that move that he made. Trump's amphibious U.S. attack was so unhinged. I'm glad Laura Ingraham corrected Trump effing around and start World War III. I didn't understand the Trump amphibious U.S. attack, though. I mean, what was he saying? Is he saying that... Is Russia doing an amphibious attack? I mean, where? Oh, is it through the port? What port is that up there? Are they doing amphibious landings? Through Kaliningrad, that area? No, what the fuck? They're not coming in through that area. No, what is that? What is that sea? But yeah, Trump is definitely swallowing Putin's load hard. He definitely, I think, he would be down to fuck. He would be down to fuck for sure. The shit he was saying yesterday about like it's genius. It's like, damn, bro. He's a fucking weirdo, man. This is going to be Russia's Afghanistan, but much worse. There were reports of amphibious landings. Really? I didn't know that. Where? Here up in where Kyiv is? What is this? What is this piece of water? What is that? That's interesting. See, that's interesting. Amphibious landings are usually pretty tough. Were those fortified at all? Because amphibious landing is supposed to be really fucking hard. But obviously this isn't going to be as hard. But like, is it Operation Sea Lion or is it Operation Seahorse? I forget. But that was like the drawn up plan for the Nazis to invade Britain. That would have to be an amphibious landing, obviously, as Britain is an island. But there was just no chance that was going to happen. Amphibious landings are really fucking hard. And the Kriegsmarine was just not it. They just couldn't do it. So they said, nah, we're good. We can't do this. Trump thought Biden attacked Ukraine. Oh, man, we need to get rid of all these fucking demented leaders, man. Fuck. Low-key fucking worried about the southern Mexican border than Ukraine and Russia. Mao was an inspiring person. Mao was mentally disabled. Like, I just keep calling everyone that. Mao was legitimately stupid as fuck, though. His whole theory of like the farmer shit was stupid as hell. It's like another level of what Lenin did was already really stupid. Mao was just like, let me just take that stupid and just like make it even stupider. That was his idea, basically. Like, let me take this idea that doesn't fit already because it was made to fit into a place that is already industrialized, and let me take it even further with how backwards I'm going to take it. It's hilarious. Can't write LMAO without Mao. Yeah, Mao lives on, man. Mao lives on. If NATO didn't punish Russia hard enough, Chinese invasion of Taiwan will be twice early. Unconfirmed report Twitter appears to show a huge seaborne landing by Russian force in the Black Sea port of Odessa. Oh, so in the south. This is coming in because through Crimea, right? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because they're coming through Crimea, right? Oh, okay, yeah, then that makes sense, yeah. So they're trying to do like encirclement strategies then. I mean, they're coming through everywhere that they can. Coming in through Belarus, so coming in from the norte, and then coming in from obviously the east, from Russia, and coming in from the south, from Crimea as well. So they're really trying to go like hitting all the holes kind of thing, you know? Think the U.S. will pull out the Area 51 tech against Russia? No. But what the right wing is doing and blaming Biden for this stuff is interesting, because if the roles were reversed, like America, like the left would be unpatriotic or the liberals would be unpatriotic. Moldova is neither in EU or NATO, but would get a snap double entry by reunifying with Romania. Keep in mind, Lenin did secret police and gulags, and Mao caused a famine and was a dictator. I think Noam Chomsky said Lenin was a right-wing fascist. Yeah, China is backing Russia. I'm just most interested to know what Russians think about this. EU needs to start building its own military now. I don't think they will. I think India has been cool with the Russian invasion as well. They've been cool with it. India is another they're another wild card. You know, say India, Turkey, and China. Those are like the three X factors. Transition is like 10% Moldova land-wise. India should be in peace with China to kick the US out of Asia. India and China fucking hate each other, but in terms of like major nations, India is a joke. So Modi is a joke, obviously. But their economy is a joke. I was reading it was some shit like 50% of like, I forget what the stat was, bro. I don't want to misstate it, but it was something like around 50% of the economy was still subsistence farming. It's like, bro, what the fuck? I couldn't believe that shit when I fucking read it, dude. That's why, like, that farmer protest that was going on, like, the protest, like, it's actually... What they were protesting is actually wrong, because they were protesting for their subsistence to be covered. Which isn't going to result in anything good. It's going to result in prevention of economic growth. So yeah, and India is not. India's a joke, but they have nukes. Yeah, but when I talk about a country being strong, I really don't give a fuck about the military, because the military is not going to do anything, bro. Like, militaries don't do anything now. They just like drop bombs everywhere. When I talk about like a strength of a country, I mean like how strong is your economy? Like how strong are you economically speaking? That's what to me makes you strong. That gives you leverage. I mean, India hates China more than we do. Yeah, they fucking hate each other, dude. They hate each other big time. Has Bolsonaro from Brazil said anything in regards to Russia? I don't know. You need to get out? What do you mean? USA is kind of an X factor too. How? That is why dictatorship of the proletariat is needed. India will never ally with China. Putin lashes out with ominous threats to Ukrainians and other countries. Before the crack of dawn, just before explosions began in cities across Ukraine, Russian state television unexpectedly broadcast an address by Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two self-proclaimed People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, in the breakaway Ukrainian region of Donbass, which he had officially recognized as independent less 2 days before, had turned to Russia with a request for help. He said to answer that call, he's launching a special military operation. Its purpose to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Within minutes, Russian missiles began hitting targets in Ukraine. Our actions are self-defense against threats, he told his fellow Russians, claiming Moscow had no plans to occupy Ukraine. We do not plan to impose ourselves on anyone, he insisted. Putin described the special military operation in limited terms to protect people living in Donbass who he claimed had been subjected to genocide, charge that Ukraine has strenuously denied, but in the next breath he lashed out more broadly. NATO supports Ukrainian neo-Nazis. Our actions are self-defense against threats. Then an extraordinary passage, he spoke directly to members of Ukraine's military at that very moment in the crosshairs of the Russian military, addressing them as dear comrades. Dear comrades. Oof. Told them they had taken an oath of allegiance to the Ukrainian people and not to the anti-people junta that's robbing Ukraine and abuses those same people. Don't follow its criminal orders, he demanded. I urge you to lay down your weapons and go home. As he has done so many times before, Putin claimed Russia has no choice but to defend itself with a hard-edged tone in his voice. He even threatened the US, Europe, and NATO, which in just a few minutes would witness armed forces open firing on Ukraine, some Kremlin had consistently dismissed as Western hysterics. Whoever tries to interfere with us, even more so, to create debts to our country for our people should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead you to such consequences that you have never experienced in your history. We are ready for any developments of events. All necessary decisions in this regard have been made. He's trying to convince Ukrainians to side with him. So this whole plan is just a big ruse of self-defense, essentially, is what it is. Australian Prime Minister supporting Russia. So that's the plan. The plan is you claim that they're like these independent breakaway regions, and then you use that as a... You essentially use that as a reason to be like, oh, well, now we can invade as self-defense. So that's the plan. It's all about self-defense justifications. European markets opened sharply lower on Thursday after Russian President Vladimir Putin launched a military operation. Let's see what Macron says. He's also a bit of a wild card, honestly. Immediately end military operations in Ukraine. I saw that Zelensky tried talking to Putin, but he didn't answer, I guess. He couldn't reach him. I wonder if these sanctions will actually do anything, though. Poland and Baltic countries trigger consultations under NATO Article 4. NATO member states Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania have triggered NATO Article 4 to launch consultations within the alliance over their security concerns. Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas said Russia's invasion of Ukraine represented a threat to the whole of Europe, the Estonian government said in a statement on Thursday. Russia's widespread aggression is a threat to the entire world, and all NATO countries, and NATO consultations on strengthening the security of the allies must be initiated to implement additional measures for ensuring the defense of NATO allies. Most effective response to Russia's aggression is unity. Under Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO agreement, the parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the allies is threatened. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. However, Russia has demanded that NATO commits to never admitting Ukraine to the alliance, something NATO members have rejected, citing the alliance's open door policy. People urged to take cover in Ukrainian city of Lviv. Flight tracker shows mostly empty airspace above Ukraine and western Russia. Japan's prime minister says Russia's invasion shakes foundation of international. Who is the Japanese prime minister? But in Japan, is it prime minister or president that matters? Don't they have a presidential system, or do they have a semi? Which one is the real powerful one? Is it the prime minister or the president? It has to be the prime minister, obviously. You don't have a prime minister in the presidential system. So this is the big dog. It used to be Shinzo Abe, but when did he get out of power? So the new Japanese prime minister is Fumio Kishida. Fumio Kishida. Definitely something you want to remember. Condemned Russian invasion of eastern Ukraine, saying it shakes the foundation of the international order. Kishida on Wednesday said Japan will impose sanctions against Russia for its action in Ukraine. I wonder what are Japanese Russo relations like, is what I'm wondering. Bitcoin price falls after Russia attacks Ukraine. Price of Bitcoin fell below $35,000 early Thursday after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a military operation in the Donbass region of Ukraine. Bitcoin is trading at $34,969 as of 1:22 a.m. ET, declined more than 8% compared to a day earlier. So Bitcoin price is falling. Why? Why is it falling because of this? What would make the Bitcoin price fall because of this? Swiss government said on Wednesday that ensure the country is not used to get around sanctions European Union imposed on Russia. You know, a question I had recently, I was thinking, like, bro, like, are tariffs sanctions? Are tariff sanctions the same way that, like, thumbs are toes? Or the way thumbs are fingers? And for crypto is huge in Ukraine? Shady as fuck and probably is connected to Russian oligarchs. You've reached the number of Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Unfortunately, I'm not able at the moment, but please leave a message. Beep. Japanese Prime Minister always changing every 2 years. Was there a different one after Shinzo? It's a constitutional monarchy. If Ukraine wanted Putin's opinion, they would ask. Zelensky tried calling Putin, but he didn't answer. Sanctions part of why Russia is so impoverished. Russia were richer, military inability to wage wars would be even more formidable. Yeah, it definitely hurts their economy for sure. Germany has to buy U.S. fracking gas now. Great. Honestly, that might just end up being good for the environment, because if Russia's cutting off its gas, or they're just like making it harder, it's like people will be forced to move towards renewable energies and like electric cars and shit, which is good for the environment. So maybe that'll end up being a good thing. What happens if Putin takes Ukraine, has actual NATO states at his doorstep? Would he stop there? He already has NATO states at his doorstep, actually. He already has Estonia, Latvia, and I think Lithuania too, but don't quote me on that. I forgot. I think all of them are, but he already has a bunch at his doorstep. They're right there. Well, I guess Lithuania doesn't border Russia, so it doesn't matter. Although they border Kaliningrad. But yeah, Latvia, Estonia, bordering Russia. So they're right there. They're right there. Ukraine belongs with Russia, honestly? That's hilariously stupid. They shortening the Japanese workday from 18 hours to 17.30, extra 30-minute break. Japan and Russia don't like each other. Some countries have prime ministers and presidential systems like Turkey. That's weird. Alright though, y'all. I think I'm finna call it here. A lot of crazy news going on. I'm about to go brush my teeth, use the bathroom, go to sleep. Really crazy news happening. Hard to explain how crazy this is right now. But yeah, don't really know what else to say. Don't really know. But yeah. What's going on is horrible. I feel really horrible for Ukrainians. I hope that it gets better. Something good happens. Maduro says he supports Putin. LML. The fuck that motherfucker gonna do? I don't know what he's gonna do. So yeah, man. I'll see you guys later. Really terrible stuff going on, but have a good one. I'm gonna go get some rest, and who knows, maybe